Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me in my little kitchen here. And today we're going to be doing a roast chicken as requested. So I've got a whole bird here, probably about 3.5 pounds I want to say. And the first thing I'm going to do is take the wishbone out, which is the bone that sits up here, a little triangular bone. And taking that out is just going to make our lives easier when we go to carve later. This chicken has a fair amount of skin up here, which is going to make it a little harder to get in there. So I'm just going to trim that off and then get in there with a paring knife. And don't be afraid, just kind of find your way in there and you'll feel the bone running down either side here of the breast. And I'm just going to get my knife in there. One slit down that side, one slit down the other. And you just kind of got to get in there with your finger. And oftentimes it'll break and you'll have to take it out in two pieces, which feels like that's what's happening in this one. But there's the first part of it. And then going back for the second part. You hear that snap. Oop. And there's the second part. All right, now when I roast a whole bird, I usually take off the wingtips. So that's easy enough to do. Just find the joint right there. Cut right through. Joint right there. Cut right through. Now what I'm going to do is season the bird and truss it and get ready to start cooking it. So what I'm going to do is just taking plain old salt and just going all over the bird. And making sure to get a little bit even down inside the cavity there. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you can take a bit here and kind of rub some salt underneath the breast of the skin here, if you want to go the extra mile. And then since we got this nice built-in cavity, we can put in some woody herbs here. This is just some rosemary and some thyme, and a few cloves of garlic as well. And that's not really going to be in there long enough to kind of infuse its way into the meat, but it will come out in the drippings as the chicken is roasting, and that'll flavor our pan sauce at the end, which will be nice. And now I'm going to truss the chicken. So what you need for that is just some butcher's twine or cooking string, as it might be called. And I'm just going to get myself a nice length of that, maybe 1.5 feet, 2. You can always give yourself a little extra and trim it off at the end if that gives you a little extra confidence. But I got that. And you can find this definitely online, but maybe even at the grocery store. And I'm just going to find the middle point of that roughly. And I'm going to take it underneath the back of the chicken here. I have the legs towards me. And I'm crossing the string over. And then just going to make a little loop here, under and under. Pulling that in. Not crazy tight, but just nice and snug. And then I'm going to kind of turn the chicken on its side here. Running the two ends of the strings down the side of the bird. Kind of flipping the chicken over. And now just go once or twice, maybe even 3 times underneath, just to give you a little anchor. Pulling that just to kind of tighten it up. And then sealing the deal with just regular old nut. And that's it. If it doesn't go so smooth the first time, just cut the string and try again. There's no real pressure. If you don't have the butcher's twine at all, you can find some videos online where people actually poke holes in the skin and kind of push the leg through that to kind of keep it compact during roasting. But I really recommend getting some butcher's twine and learning to do it, because it makes life easier. Now let's talk about cooking this chicken. I like to do the way that Jacques Pepin roasts his chicken, and that is in a pan. A stainless steel pan would be the ideal. I don't have one of those right now, so I'm just using this non-stick. If you have a stainless steel, it'll be a little nicer because you'll get better caramelization of those juices, which is going to equal a better sort of pan sauce at the end of the day. But I have this pan heating up over about medium-high heat, and I'm going to add just like a tablespoon about of a neutral oil. This is grapeseed, but it could be corn oil, it could be vegetable oil, it could be sunflower oil. I'm just making sure that that gets its way around the pan. And then we just go in. We're going to start by going in with the side of the chicken down first. So what that's going to do, we do it this way so that the leg meat gets a little extra heat and allows for a more even cooking between the white meat and the dark meat by the end of the process. Now this chicken has been cooking leg side down for about 2.5–3 minutes. I'm just going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side for another 2.5–3 minutes. And then we'll put the whole thing in the oven. Oven's at 425. So I'm just going to, first I'm going to flip this over. And you can see how we've already sort of started to encourage browning. About another 2.5–3 minutes on this side. So now I'm just going to take the whole thing and go right into my 425-degree oven. It's going to hang out on that side for 20 minutes. Then we're going to flip it back over to the leg side, the other leg side, and go for another 20 minutes. Then onto the chicken's back for 20 minutes, and then that'll be a ball game. And while that chicken is roasting in the oven, I wanted to talk to you about how to break down a whole chicken. I often feel that you get a better deal if you get the whole bird, and it's just a good skill to know how to do. So let's talk about that. And they were on sale at the grocery store, so I couldn't resist. Here's our whole chicken, and I usually like to start with the leg thigh. And to remove that from the bird, I like to pick it up, so I'm using the weight of the chicken to kind of help me out. And I go in this seam here, just ever so slightly, to kind of break the skin apart from the breast section. And I just pull and twist a little bit. And then I come back with the knife, and I find where that seam is, that articulation between the thigh bone and the back of the bird. And I just feel around until I clear it. And then you don't even almost need your knife. You can just pull, and you have your leg and your thigh. And let's say you want to split the leg thigh. Just go in there and find the seam, which is usually, you can tell by this big piece of sort of like fat there, and just go right between, and then you have your thigh and your leg. So I'll just do the same thing on the other thigh leg. Using the weight of the chicken, just barely getting in there, pulling it back a little bit to really reveal that nice oyster of meat. Cut through that joint. If you don't feel it at first, just wiggle around until you do, clear it, and then either cut through or pull that off. There's your leg thigh. There's that joint. Sometimes it can even be a little tricky. Work your way around until you find your way through it, and then you have it. Okay. Now here are your wings. I usually take the wing tips off in most circumstances. So how you do that is just find the articulation, go through it, find the articulation, go through it. And let's say we want to take the wing but keep the whole breast intact. then again, it's all just a matter of finding the articulation. So you can move the wing around a little bit till you kind of feel where that is going to be. Aim for that seam. Just kind of, if you don't feel it right at first, wiggle around. But that one was basically right there. And I actually got a little bit more of the breast than I probably should have, but we'll be all right. You can either keep that whole, or again, just a matter of finding the articulation if you want to do the flats and the drummerette. And you cut right there. Now, let's say I want to keep the drummerette part of the shoulder attached. I could take the flat off, and then I would just lay the chicken flat. Find the center here of the breast, cut right where I think that is, and we have the breastbone here, dividing the two breasts, and I just want to get on one side of it. Slicing down, and eventually it starts to slope, and I just let my knife follow that, pulling away as I do, and then eventually pulling the meat away will reveal the joint here between the wing, which attaches to the body. And I just go through that. And there I have this. So if you, I don't know, wanted to cook off this as a whole piece and serve that as one, you could do that. Again, here we are. I usually flip the chicken around when I take off the opposite breast. So here I am, just cutting down through on the side of that breastbone. Eventually it starts to slope, and I just, using my thumb here, kind of prying away the meat so I have room to work, following the natural slope of that carcass. And eventually, again, our shoulder joint will be revealed. Will it? There it is. And you have your breast without the wing attached in this case. And you have your carcass left over for stock. Alright, and it's been 20 minutes now. Our chicken's ready for its first turn. Already you can see that's starting to look pretty nice. If you have like some big tongs or something, that might be the easiest way for you to get at this, but I'm just going to go at it with my hands here. Let that burn off a little bit, then there we are. And we go back into the oven for another 20 minutes on the other side. And now that we've let it cook on the other side for 20 minutes, we're going to turn the chicken onto its back and let it cook for 20 more minutes. And it is looking nice. Just move that right there. Back into the oven, 20 minutes. And then we'll be all set. Alright, so now it's been 20 minutes on its back. Let's see how we've done. And that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this chicken, which is very hot, out of this pan. I'll take all this and pour it off. Alright, so let's talk about carving this chicken. First of all, I want to get rid of this string. And we're going to carve it much like how we did with the raw chicken when I was breaking it down. I will like to start with the legs here. And these almost pull apart on their own. I don't need much help from the knife. Once I get to that joint, just working my way in, and it just comes out basically on its own. I'm really not doing anything with the knife. And there you have a leg and thigh. And let's say we're taking the breast next, just for demonstration. We'll go right in the middle. And I'm on the one side here of that breastbone. And we don't have a wishbone anymore. Up here at the front, we took that out if you remember. So that's making our life easier. I'm not even really using the knife as a cutting device. I'm just kind of prying the meat away. Only there now am I actually using the knife. Following it down here to where the wing meets the carcass. Cutting through. And here you have the breast with the wing attached. Let's say you wanted to do it, let's say this was a turkey and we had done that and you want to serve it sort of Thanksgiving style where you make the thin slices. Now that that wishbone's gone, it makes our life very easy to make these nice slices like this. And you could serve that up with your gravy. And again, just for demonstration purposes here, we'll do the other leg. Don't really need to do much work with the knife, just kind of getting in there, bending that back. And that comes right off. Now let's just finish off our pan sauce quickly. So I have the pan that we roasted our bird in, and this was a pan that our chicken was resting in, and some juices came out and I poured all those juices into that pan. Now I've got just medium, high heat on this pan, and I'm just going to add a little splash of water. And we're going to let that come up and just stir around. If you have a wooden spoon, it's fine. I have this little spatula, but we're just heating it up until all these particles dissolve. Alright, now that most of those solid bits have dissolved, I'm just going to kill the heat and go into a little bowl. And let's make a little plate. Alright, let's serve it up. Here we have a nice breast. And we'll do a leg so the dark meat people are happy as well. And yeah, a little bit of this pan sauce. And this is very concentrated in flavor, so a little bit really goes a long way. After dinner, don't throw out the carcass or any of the bones. Pop it in a bag and put that in the freezer. And once you have 2-3 carcasses, put all of it in a nice big pot. Cover it with cold water. Bring it up to a simmer. And once the stock comes up to a simmer, in the first 20 or 30 minutes, you're going to notice this foam and some fat at the surface. And what you want to do is you just take a spoon and you work your way around and you just pull that off. And once it's been simmering gently for about 30 minutes and you've skimmed it a few times and it seems pretty clear, you can go in with some aromatics. We got an onion, a couple carrots chopped up, the outer green part of some leeks, and a few things from the spice cabinet. I've got about a tablespoon of herb de Provence, a couple cloves, some peppercorns, and some bay leaves. And a little Jacques Pepin trick, just a little splash of soy sauce, which is going to help give your stock a nice golden color in the end. And now just sit back and let it go for about 3-4 hours. And this chicken stock has been going for just over 4 hours now, and I can see that the liquid level has reduced quite a bit, and when I taste it, it's nice and rich, so I know it's time to strain it out and cool it down and it's ready to go. So I strained all the solids out, and I pulled just a little bit out so you can see just how nice that color is, and it's just so much better than anything you'll get in a box at the grocery store. And just one last point on this stock. The next day it's going to look like this. You see it's gelled up and jiggly, and that's because all that protein, the collagen, and the gelatin we got out of the chicken bones. And any fat that we might have missed in skimming is now solidified on the top, so you can just skim that right off. And I know this might, weird you out a little bit, but this is a sign of a really well-made stock, and it's just so much more nutritionally dense than anything you'll get at the store.